You've been waiting for it, and so have we. It is game week, and we are officially back for the season on Three Guys Before the Game. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us. Tony Caridi along with the Senator, Brad Howe, and like a petunia that blooms, like a tulip that comes from the ground. Look who has reborn himself. Look who has reappeared. Look who has reblossomed. Look who's back, ladies and gentlemen.
Our long national nightmare is over. I've been invited back after a 7-month hiatus. I appreciate it. In honor of that, I wore the same shirt you have on today.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so Three Guys Before the Game started this week 1 year ago. August the 30th of last year, we started Three Guys Before the Game. This is our special Jerry West episode, number 44. This is our 44th episode of Three Guys Before the Game. I think it's 44, 43, 44. And we begin full-scale production now. Like these podcasts, if you ever notice, like they take seasons off. And what's funny is like when we were kids, right, a season would be, right, like a bunch. But now, like, people do, like, 3 podcasts. Well, that was our first season. Hope you enjoyed it. But our season is obviously football and basketball season, so this is our second season.
You took the summer off?
No. We had good shows.
We had some strong content, Kercheval.
Yeah.
Strong
well,
over the
names.
summer.
I saw the show. You brought big names
really
in.
good shows.
Yeah.
Tariq Phillip was fantastic. Deshaun Butler.
Yeah.
Joe Alexander.
Was wonderful.
Jeff Hostetler.
Haas was great. Taylor Lilly, the dietitian. From WVU, very, very interesting. But now
I'm back.
Oh, yeah, by the way.
I don't want to follow Joe Alexander.
I saw Nate Adrian, by the way, Brad, last week. He didn't even bring the show up. I think he's taking offense that he wasn't included during the summer.
You think?
Yeah, maybe.
I
think so.
I think he'll be all right.
He didn't bring the show up. But anyway, the deal goes like this, folks. Hoppy is with us during football season because that's what he does. And he can't be with us during basketball because of that political thing and that world that he runs around with down at the legislature. And, geez, not much has been going on there.
I thought that's why you had me on.
Well,
I thought you were going to talk about the Supreme Court.
No, I'm having you on because I think that you really need a mental rest
I do.
From the absolute amazing summer that it's been. I mean, what you went through this past summer is our equivalent of conference reorganization.
Yeah, we had Supreme Court realignment.
I mean, you had realignment. We that's kind of how we've spent several summers doing realignment, and I feel for you. So I just thought I'd bring you in here just so your head can kind of just like decompress it, get it out.
Lighten up his days a little bit.
Yeah,
I tell you, it was nice. I did research prior to today's program,
Well, sure.
and I was enjoyed doing that research.
Yeah, I did research too this morning prior to today's program.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. You thought I was coming in empty? You thought I was
It's
coming
usually about a season's worth of notes for you right there. That's a lot of ciphering.
It is. Well, you can't see really good on camera. The lighting kind of. But anyway, I got good stuff. So here's our schedule, folks. We're going to go once this week, and then we'll go twice next week.
2 days.
Yeah, we'll go twice next week from here on in. We'll go on Monday where we'll do a recap of the game. So that means next week, Labor Day. And then we'll go Thursday to preview the next week's game. So we'll go 2 days, 2 a week, starting after this week. And thanks so much, everybody. Share it along there. I was in a crowd in Martinsburg recently, and I said, raise your hand if you've listened to Three Guys Before the Game. And I got a few, but I didn't get a ton, which underscores the fact that while a lot of people, 25% of America, listens to podcasts, 75% people don't. And the reason that they don't is not because they don't want to, as much as it's still difficult to listen to them. It's hard to kind of navigate. It's getting better. So my point is, if you know of this show and you listen, pass it on to someone. Like, be a podcast Johnny Appleseed. Tell them, hey, man, you listen to podcasts? They'll be like, no, man, it's like too hard. Just go, hey, it's really easy. Just go wvmetronews.com. We'll have the links for you there, and you can listen, subscribe, and check it out because we enjoy doing this.
Or follow any of us on Twitter, and we tweet
on the
out.
Twitter. Yeah, on the Twitter as well. So here we go, boys. On the Twitter. So here we go, boys. It's the season opener. West Virginia and the Volunteers of Tennessee, once again, WVU for the second year in a row is opening up against a Power 5 opponent.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings a great deal of attention it's always going to be a lot of excitement when a season starts, but there's more attention focused when you play a Power 5 school than, for example, the 2015 opener against Georgia Southern, the 2013 opener against William and Mary, or date back to 1993, the opener against Eastern Michigan. I mean, it just doesn't generate the same kind of interest. However, this one is interesting in a bunch of different regards. It's on the road, neutral game. It's against a Tennessee team, which obviously is one of the great names in college football. You've got a first-year coach there. With that comes a lot of question marks. And then for West Virginia, you know the story. West Virginia offensively has 2 first-team Associated Press All-Americans to start the season, which we've never had before on the offensive side. And you've got a Heisman contender at quarterback. You've got a great deal of optimism on that side of the ball. And then defensively, you just got a lot of question marks. Not to say that they're not going to be solid, but you just don't know. So because of all of that, you got great storylines.
You want to start, Kercheval, since you're the guest? Well, I think this is
he's not a guest. He's a regular.
Well, he's new to the podcast here.
Well,
for season 2.
Don't take it away. He was one of the founding fathers. I mean, he was the John Hancock when we put this thing together. Yeah.
I think you hit on 2 things. I think this game is about, on the West Virginia side, expectations first and foremost. So after a season of not unprecedented, but this is the highest level of expectations we've seen certainly since the 2012 season when West Virginia joined the Big 12. So it's finally a chance to get that jump started. And you mentioned playing Tennessee. Tennessee's got a lot of challenges coming into this season based on where they've been. That's why they have a new coach. But if West Virginia, and its offense in particular, comes out and does what we think it's going to do, and Will Grier and David Sills and Gary Jennings and company light this Tennessee team up, then that Heisman campaign that everybody's been spending so much time on this summer kind of jumps into overdrive for week 1. So it's the chance to finally get this season of expectations underway from a West Virginia perspective.
This is a great chance to have kind of a statement game very early on, because it's Tennessee, and I'm going to talk about Tennessee in a moment as to they're a bigger name than they are talented, but we'll get into that. But you have this, it's a Belk. What is it? Belk something.
Belk Kickoff Classic.
Belk Kickoff Classic. It's at this neutral site. It's 3:30. It's a good time. It's the first weekend. It is one of the premier games of the weekend, because of who the teams are, and because West Virginia has its preseason ranking, and because of Will Grier. So I think you're right. I think it's a great chance to make a statement early and get that early buzz. You got to carry through the season, but it's a great chance early to do something.
It absolutely is. And you're right. CBS 3:30 is a big game. CBS 3:30, big game, SEC against the Big 12. There's a lot of things that obviously this game will have repercussions as the season goes on. Not that, because obviously Tennessee is in a rebuild effort, but you can't lose it. As much as you've got to win it, you can't lose it. For a bunch of different reasons, for your own business and for the Big 12's business.
Because West Virginia is really, they've gone through this whole cycle of being the sexy pick to being the overvalued team.
It's a weird offseason. You're right.
And so now, and if you lose to Tennessee, everybody's going to go, very quickly they'll say, West Virginia was really overvalued.
Told you.
Yeah, told you. And also you have, this Tennessee is, and I don't know when you want to get into the Volunteers, but think about this. 20 years ago, this year, they won a national championship with Phil Fulmer. Went 13-0, beat Florida State, I think, won a national championship. This tells you, and Tony, you talk a lot about this, with some bad hires and some circumstances, how you can lose that.
Absolutely.
So they go from a national championship 20 years ago to last year they won 4 games, including Georgia Tech, Indiana State, Southern Miss, and who was the 4th one? UMass. Mm-hmm. Those are the only games they won last year.
Did they play UMass in the Curry-Hicks cage?
I don't know where they played them, but they only beat them by a field goal. Yeah. So think about, and then you have the whole thing of 5 coaches in 11 years, and who knows how many offensive coordinators.
And never mind the upheaval in the offseason trying to find a new coach. So you had the chaos of last season. They run Butch Jones out of there. They had the absolute mess of a coaching search, which cost them an athletic director, among others. They bring Phil Fulmer back to try
the guy they fired.
Not as the football coach, though. They bring him back in an administrative role. Then they go bring Jeremy Pruitt in here. So on the Tennessee side, there's a ton of unknowns. So if it's expectations for West Virginia, it's unknowns for this Tennessee team. They always say, Tony, when you're making a coaching change and you're the coach coming in, you want to take over a program that has recruited well but not won, because you've got talent there. That has been Tennessee. Butch Jones was able to stack some classes on top of each other. So what you don't know if you're West Virginia is exactly what their offense is going to look like. What's their defense going to look like? You get a defensive guy in Jeremy Pruitt. They were terrible last year defensively. Are they better?
Well,
Are they better this year?
They were terrible defensively and terrible offensively.
Both. That's why they
average 20 points a game and under 300 yards a game. And you talk about the talent. Everybody always says Tennessee has talent, but think about this. In the SEC coaches preseason picks for the first team, second team, and third team. First team, second team, and third team. How many players do you think Tennessee had on that list? First team, second team, and third team in the SEC. How many Tennessee players were on that list?
Trey Smith was one. I'll give you one.
That's it.
I'll say Trey Smith.
Trey Smith, the offensive lineman, he was first team. That's it.
Who just got cleared here this week for full contact.
Yeah. That's all they had on the three deep. In terms of talent.
But remember, though, that's based on mostly past performance. And Tennessee has not had good past performance, or they wouldn't be in this situation. You still don't know what they're going to give you. Are they going to play harder because it's a first-time head coach in his first game?
Yes.
Right, so that helps them right there. But what are they going to do at quarterback? They still have not named a starting quarterback. Their depth chart came out early this week.
They got oars everywhere.
And 13 oars on their depth chart. That's very Alabama-ish.
And also,
very Alabama-ish.
I wonder how you get. And also, guys, they are going from the spread to the pro style offensively. They're going defensively. They're going to the 3-4. I mean, they've changed everything. They should change their colors. I mean, they've changed.
No.
But they've changed everything.
Which is
why
I
think that plays into. That's why West Virginia's a 10-point favorite.
Yeah, it's why West Virginia's a 10-point favorite, and it's why West Virginia should like this game. It's a big brand. It can be a national statement, and it's a team that is still in some turmoil and has no idea what it is. It's a great situation for West Virginia.
So what do you say we take a little historical walk down memory lane? What's history tell us about season opening games? What's history tell us about season opening games against Power 5 schools at West Virginia? What's history tell us about season opening games with an incumbent at quarterback?
Somebody's done some research.
For West Virginia. What's history tell us about an incumbent quarterback against a Power 5 against West Virginia? So I did me a little ciphering, as they say. You want some numbers, boys?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I went back 25 years.
Wow.
So I went to the 1993 season. Overall, in the last 25 season openers, West Virginia is 17-8. They've won 68% of their opening games over the last quarter century. 12 times in that span of 25 years, West Virginia has opened the season with a returner at quarterback, with an incumbent starter at quarterback, 12 times in the last 25 years. And they're 8-4 in those games, 66% winning percentage. During that span, West Virginia, over the last 25 years, has opened up against a Power 5 school 11 times. They're 4-7, just 36%. On 5 occasions, West Virginia's opened the season against a Power 5 with a returning starter at quarterback, which is what West Virginia has this year with Will Grier. They are, in those 5 games against a Power 5 with a returner at quarterback, 2-3.
Okay, those are excellent stats.
Oh, I got more. But wait, there's more.
Okay.
Dana Holgorsen is 5-2 in his season openers, 71% clip. Dana is 1-2 against Power 5 schools to open the season. 1-2. He's 1-0 with a returning starter at quarterback against a Power 5 opponent. So the other 2 times he did not have a returning starter at quarterback against Power 5 teams. He had Clint Trickett against Alabama, who was making his first start. So Dana is 1-0 with a returning starter at quarterback against Power 5 team. That was 2016 against Missouri. Skylar Howard was the returning starter. And it was also Missouri's first game with their new head coach,
Correct.
Barry Odom.
So there you hit it. I was going to say that's the game to me that most looks like this one coming up. Missouri wasn't very good coming back into a season with a first-time head coach that was defensive-minded from the SEC. The difference, of course, is the venue. West Virginia got them at home versus this neutral site. But that, to me, is a similar game if you want to look at some comparisons there.
Similar in some respects, in different other respects, because West Virginia has Will Grier.
What are you saying? You think Will's better than Skyler?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was just asking for a friend.
That's
Just
seriously.
asking.
Those are relevant statistics, and I think that the odds makers look at those things. But then there are mitigating factors that come into play.
You mentioned odds makers. That's a point we haven't discussed yet. Since the last time we got together during the regular season for this show, because Hoppy was on our sports betting special after the Supreme Court announcement came out. But yeah, this is a whole new world, right? For the very first time this weekend, you can walk into the track at Charlestown, right where Hoppy grew up taming horses and milking cows, and you can place a wager this coming Saturday on West Virginia, Tennessee. The line has gone to 10. We turn that over now to our Benny Center specialist. Center, you say that 9.5 points that it goes to 10 is significant?
Well, it opened at 9.5. Yeah, it's pushed up to 10. It is very significant because think what 10 points is in college football. It's 2 scores, right? It's a touchdown, extra point, and it's a field goal. So when it jumps up to 10, now if it turns into 10 and you're on West Virginia's side, now you just got to push rather than winning that bet. So, yeah, that's a big-time move for just a half a point.
You know what it doesn't tell you that some of the money's coming in on West Virginia?
Yeah.
That's what it tells you. I mean, that line is going up. It might go up even a little bit more.
The number, what about the over-under? What's that tell us?
61.5 is the current as we sit here. 61.5. Feels like it should be more than that.
Yeah, it does.
I mean,
feel
West
like
Virginia. West Virginia's got to come out and lay it on Tennessee, in my opinion.
I mean, West Virginia. Don't you think
West Virginia's got to get 45, 42,
I was going to
45.
say they're going to score. I saw one projected score by the odds makers was like 30 to 20. I mean, West Virginia averaged in Will Grier games averaged what 39
40 points. Yeah,
40 points, and Tennessee averaged 19 something last year. I mean, don't you?
Hence your 61.5. Do the math there.
Yes.
Hence your 61.5. That's how they get there. West Virginia's got to come out. The question will be, again, back to those unknowns, the question starts to center around, you've got to think Tennessee's game plan, especially because it's Jeremy Pruitt and where he comes from. Georgia, Alabama. It's got to be a run the ball, if they can, behind Trey Smith, the offensive lineman, and shrink that clock. Isn't that upset 101? That's what you try and do whenever you're trying to pull the upset, especially if you're this Tennessee team.
Well,
you're going to throw it enough to keep them honest, but they're going to want to line their big offensive linemen up and take advantage of a West Virginia defense that last year couldn't stop anybody on the ground. One of the worst rush defenses in America. Is that better with this new defensive line? Maybe. That's one of the unknowns in there for West Virginia. But if I'm Tennessee, I'm running this football and trying to keep Will Grier on the
Well, you already
sideline.
know. I mean, they're going to a pro-style offense, so they want to run the ball. They want to run power offense, then play action pass. They're unsettled at quarterback. Maybe they play both guys. Who knows? So you're right. I mean, that's what they want to do, and then try to see if West Virginia makes some mistakes and play good defense. But can those – and they got some new guys in the defensive backfield. Can those guys stop Will Grier and West Virginia's receivers? I don't think so. I think West Virginia still can run up some points here.
If West Virginia doesn't run up some points, that'll be more of a cause. You would think that they will. There's no reason to think that they won't. Because why? Because it's the same group from last year. It's the same guys catching the ball.
For West Virginia.
Yeah, it's Sills. It's Jennings. It's Sims. It's Greer's throwing it. The guys running it, Petaway and McCoy. And then now you've got the newcomers and Sinkfield and Letty Brown. You've got to be able to move the ball. You would think you'd be shocked if they weren't able to score.
And I think you have. I don't know what the value is, but the fact that you have an entirely new coaching staff, an entirely new offense, a new offensive coordinator. This is something like the 4th offensive coordinator in 6 years at Tennessee. I mean, how many times do you change the names of things? How many times do you change everything? And just that first day live game experience of getting the plays in and knowing what you want to do with down and distance, that I think is extremely difficult. Now, they may be very good at some point. Probably not this year and later years, but in game one, just those logistics, I think, are problematic for Tennessee.
And the fact that when they did come out with their depth chart, they listed Jarrett Garantano or Keller Christ. The old football adage goes, if you've got 2 quarterbacks, then you don't have 1.
Well, clearly they wanted separation and didn't get it.
Neither of those 2 guys. Now, just a couple of historical references here. Jarrett Garantano, the returner at quarterback, his dad was James Garantano. And if you're an old Big East fan, he was the leading receiver at Rutgers for a long, long time. He could catch the heck out of it. And then Keller Christ, and that last name Christ, his uncle is Paul, the Wisconsin head coach. So it's got a couple connections there. You also got several kids on their roster are like legacy type players. Cornelius Bennett's got a relative on the team, and so they've got names. But at this point, I think they're very much in a feeling out process. Here's a question for you: when Jeremy Pruitt was at Georgia calling defense, it looked much different than the defense that he ran at Alabama. For the reason being, at Alabama, he could take his corners because he had such talent and go up and play press coverage and just basically choke out people, just choke them out. Mm-hmm. That's what he did. He did not play that way at Georgia. So what West Virginia's got to look at this week is, what's he going to do? Is he going to try to play press on Sills? Is he going to try to play press on Jennings? No way.
You can't do that. With young cornerbacks, there's no way he can do. If he does, Will Greer's eyes should be about as big as a 50-inch TV when he goes to the line of scrimmage. If he sees press coverage with those corners on this set of receivers all day long, right? All day long.
Yeah, you would think.
And you can be not taking away from Pruitt's credentials because he has a couple national championships, but still, you're the head coach, you're the defense coach at Alabama. I mean, you have the best players in college football. You can do what you said, Tony, that press coverage. I doubt if they have that at Tennessee. Again, we don't know what they have talent-wise, but Tennessee, even when they were just good in the SEC, they always had some good players that went into the pros, right? At receiver, in line, quarterbacks. I don't know if they have that. I know you talk about Butch Jones and recruit. I'm not sure if they have that now.
Well, there's no evidence that they do. There's no evidence that they do. The run game on both sides is going to be ultra important here. I mean, we spend all this time on Greer and Sills as well. We should. But I mentioned how much West Virginia struggled against the run last year. They gave up 26 rushing touchdowns, which is in the bottom 25% of college football. You know who was worse than West Virginia in giving up rushing touchdowns? Tennessee. So Tennessee's got to try and do something. If I'm them, aren't you coming into this game saying Greer's really good and these receivers are really good, but man, we have got to stop the run. If we're going to be able to do anything, line up their big defensive linemen, and they have got to be able to stop West Virginia on the ground and at least make Greer and Jake Spavital's offense one-dimensional. That's their only shot. So that will be interesting, is who can run the ball may be kind of a sneaky key to this game.
So how do you think they play him? What do you think? What do you think what do you think Tennessee's game plan is defensively?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, what you just described of trying to play one-on-one on the outside and stuff the run makes some sense from what I just said, but I don't know how you can do that and expect to win against those receivers. So you're going to have to give some cushion on the outside and still try and get some push up front with their defensive line. Because what's the SEC always say to you? SEC defensive linemen. No one else has defensive linemen. It's only the SEC. Okay. We're going to find out here because you've got an experienced West Virginia offensive line with at least a couple of pros on it going against this SEC. Is it really the SEC defensive line, or is it Alabama and Georgia have pretty good defensive lines and maybe LSU and Tennessee doesn't? That, to me, is going to be one of the very highest or most important keys to this one. West Virginia's O-line against Tennessee's defensive line. Because if Tennessee can handle it, then they can do some things defensively to cause problems.
Look what happened in the Utah game. When the
totally manhandled.
When the West Virginia offensive line got manhandled. Now, I don't know if Tennessee's got that skill level.
No, that's a different deal. That was not even West Virginia's offensive line because of injuries. That was about as bad as I've ever seen. Agree?
Yes.
No debate. that was
no debate there.
That was not a good deal. Couple of things. Rules changes. 25-yard line and in, you can fair catch a kickoff. Injury prevention. Don't know how prevalent that will be. Something to keep in mind. Soon as a touchdown is scored, a 40-second clock starts. Okay? A 40-second clock starts. You have some, think about this. Your offense is out there. You just scored. 40-second clock's on. What if you don't run your team out there? Your kick team. What if you just keep playing? Go for two. What if you got advantage? And they're personnel-wise down. Pretty interesting.
Just line it back up and play?
Yeah, and guess what? If you don't like the matchup, flag, 5 yards, step back, kick it.
You're saying you think the defense will automatically run off the field and the
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that could happen, right? That could happen. Think about that. I think that rule's going to be interesting this weekend. I think you're going to start to see people using that.
Well, bring that early.
Yeah,
if you're going to do that, bring that early on one of the first couple of scores.
I'm just saying
that's the time to use that.
I think
that's almost like a trick play in my mind.
I think from a coaching standpoint, it adds a different dimension.
Anything to make extra points more interesting, I'm for.
I'm just saying. All right, West Virginia's running back situation. There's four. Who's the one? We holding you? I mean, you need to check. I mean, are we holding?
I mean, guys, calls.
You check. I mean, can you shut the thing off? I mean, guy's checking his cell phone. What was that?
Wasn't his turn to talk. He's going to go ahead and check some messages.
I mean,
wait a minute, let me see.
Typical radio guy. Yeah,
I'm checking my app
backs.
to see what
Who gets it? See, isn't that one of the fascinating questions for 2018? Because you know you've seen McCoy. You've seen Petaway a couple years ago. He didn't get a lot of action last year. But if you talk to the coaches in the offseason here, Sinkfield was the guy that originally in the offseason got all the attention. And then lately, the last month, it's been Letty Brown. So what you're trying to wade through right there is, do Sinkfield and Letty Brown truly warrant that kind of attention? Or is that partly they've looked really good, but partly like, I'll tell you what, guys, we got 4 running backs here. We don't want anybody to transfer. Can we keep them around? So let's talk up all 4 of these guys. Because barring injury, you're not going to use all 4. If you can get a couple of them in there, and West Virginia's shown it does
you're
that.
You're going to get injuries.
Gets a couple of guys in there. So to answer your question, don't know. We'll tell you Saturday who gets the carries. And I will say, you better not fumble. If you're one of the 4, you better not fumble the football because that's what this does, right?
That's the last.
Somebody fumbles early in Tennessee, you won't see him again until Oklahoma in November.
And in addition to that, you've got the new freshman redshirt rule, which will allow teams. I'm sure Tennessee will do this, right?
This will be fun.
Tennessee, I mean, you got to better have a big old roster in front of you because they're going to pop guys in there to see if they're going to help them. I think more so on the Tennessee side than on the West Virginia side. They're going to give guys a chance to see if they freeze under the situation or if they can play and help them. So I think you could see a ton of guys being played. I really do.
See, I think that's a fascinating subplot to these games, is who gets in a little bit earlier. Is Letty Brown get in a little bit earlier, which is a guy maybe you would try and redshirt earlier? What do you do at the quarterback position? We know Dana is slow to pull the starter, as a lot of college coaches are, because no lead ever feels safe. But do you want to get Jack Allison some reps? How about getting Trey Lowe some reps somewhere along the line, even if the plan is to redshirt him? So I think that's going to be something really fun to watch during these games.
I didn't hear your prediction. Would you involve yourself on the Greg Hunter prediction show?
I did.
You called in?
I did. Well, I came in.
Oh, you came in and made it an official prediction.
I came in.
So where are you going?
I said 10.
Excuse me?
I went 10-2.
Really?
10-2.
You don't think they'll go undefeated, huh?
I think it's really hard to go undefeated. I don't care who you are. I mean, again, you know me. I think this is as good a chance as West Virginia has had, certainly to win the Big 12 and to be a national elite program for a season. It is all right there. It is all right there. It's really hard to win 12 games in the regular season.
Mountaineer fans, they had over 100 people last night. I think 110, 15 people. The average win total, when they averaged it all up, was 9.7 or 9.8. So 9.8, yeah. Call it 10. So think there's a little enthusiasm, a little expectation here?
There is, but as long-suffering Mountaineer fans will tell you, that just when you think that you're there is when things start to go wrong, and when nobody thinks you can do well is when you. That's probably with every program. When the expectations aren't quite as high, then maybe you got a better chance. I don't know. I tend to actually agree with Brad that if not this year, then when. Mm-hmm. And if you think that way, that pushes that number up around 10, and to at least be in. I think actually this is a big year for Dana Holgorsen. I mean, because of the if not now win, and to get to 10 wins and to get in that championship game. I don't think you need to win the championship game for the league, but I think you need to get in the championship game, because if you're not going to get in there now, when are you going to get in there?
And as I've stated, it's not just the West Virginia side of that. This league is there for the taking. I know guys will emerge. I know teams will emerge by the end of the season, and we'll say, oh, I didn't see that coming. But it is there. Rarely will West Virginia have an opportunity to not only have a returning quarterback when very few other schools do. You're returning not only the best in the league, maybe one of the best in the country. This is a quarterback league. Got to make hay this year.
I know you guys hold your predictions tight for Saturday, so I'm not going to even ask you, but I will ask you this. Cover or not?
I like West Virginia to cover.
Line 10, cover or not?
See, I've been pretty consistent on this one. I haven't moved from earlier this summer. I think West Virginia wins by a couple touchdowns here.
All right.
Or should. Let me put it that way.
How you
Should
feel?
win by a couple of
Yeah,
touchdowns.
they should. Yeah, they should.
How do you feel?
They should.
I mean, how do you feel? How do you feel? You feel good? Feel good going in the week?
I feel good because West
You feel
Virginia.
good that you're not talking about the Supreme Court. That's what you feel good about.
I do feel good about that. I feel good because you got Greer in this offense and Spavital and Hosa all back for another year. And I think that is a tremendous advantage. Again, going up against a team that is just getting started with new coaches and new systems and those kinds of things. I worry a little bit about a neutral site because I don't think West Virginia is necessarily real good against the spread at a neutral site. But if this was home, I'd favor West Virginia by 2 touchdowns or more. But I like West Virginia, and I like them to cover in this game.
All right, that'll do it for this first edition of the season. Once again, we'll be back next Monday to talk about it, break it all down. Then we'll be going Monday, Thursday as the season rolls on.
It's the Labor Day edition, by the way.
It'll be because we labor.
That's right. We'll be here.
I mean,
we're not going anywhere.
You know, some don't labor. We labor on Labor Day because that's what we are all about. Hey, thanks for listening, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. And again, back again. And next Monday, we'll have one under our belt. For our video producer, Matthew Caridi. For the Senator, Brad Howe. And for Hoppy Kercheval, thanks for being with us. Spread the word and subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you may listen to your podcast. 3 Guys Before the Game. We're out.